Welcome my dear students to BTECH. The concept now what we are going to discuss is the subquery, how we can write the subqueries. That means the query within the query is called the subquery. That means the query that we can define in a query itself is called the subquery. See, the subquery or inner query or nested query is a query in a query. That means we are writing a query in a query is called the subquery. Subquery is usually added in where class of the SQL statement. Most of the time, a subquery is used when you know how to search a value using select statement. That means we are writing the select statement to extract the data, and based on some condition if we want to extract the particular data, then only we can write the subqueries or the nested queries. The subqueries are alternate way of returning the data from multiple tables. Using subqueries, we can extract the data not only from the single table, we can extract the data from multiple tables by combining the queries. See, in subqueries, we can check different conditions through where class with the operators using equal to, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, and so on. Here, for what type of queries we can write the subqueries? For the select statement, insert statement, update statement, and delete statements. For all these four, we can write the subqueries. See the examples. The subquery example. Usually, a subquery should return only one record, because if you are writing a subquery, then the result of that subquery must be only one record, and it should not affect the record of main query. But sometimes it can also retain multiple records when used with operator like in. In general, the subquery record must be one. If it is multiple, then that multiple records are extracted only with the keyword like in. That means if there are multi-valued satisfaction is there through the condition, then we can write it as like in or not in. Where we can write the like in and not in only in the where clause. The query and the syntax would be as follows. Select first name, last name, subject from student details. See, here we are checking the condition through where clause, where games not in cricket and football. That means we are selecting the attributes from the student details as the first name, last name, and subject. Those should not be in cricket and football. That means multiple records may be extracted, because games not only the cricket and football, there might be cricket, football, tennis, court, like that. So we are extracting the data which are not in cricket and football. That means the entries will be extracted that belongs to other games. Here it is multi-valued. Next one, subquery output would be as similar like this. See, these are the outputs of students Shekhar, Gowda, which are playing the badminton, Priya and Chandra, which are playing the chess. See, there are multiple records. That means two records are extracted which are satisfying the given condition. Come back to the example. What are the main query and subqueries here? Here, selecting the first name, last name, and subject. This is called the main query. And where games not in cricket and football, this is the subquery. That means we are writing the subquery in a main query. That is, we are nesting of queries. We are doing the nesting of queries. Next one. Let us consider student details which are having the details in different manner as name, father name, mother name, first name, last name, like this. Here, if you know the name of the student who are studying in science subject, you can get the details through ID by using the following query. See this one. Select ID, that means the student ID and the first name from student details. This is the table name, where first name in. That means we are checking only two names, that is the Rahul or Stephen. The Rahul or Stephen. But if you do not have their names, that means I don't know the names, then how we can write the query? See this one, select the ID and first name from student details, where first name must be in, select first name from student details where subject is equal to science. Here we are writing the query within the query and the query. This is called nested. This is called the nested. See, this is the first query and we are writing the where class, that is the second one. Again we are writing this another one. This is third one. We are checking the details of a student. If we don't know the names, that means we are selecting the ID and the first name from student details. This is the first one. Where first name in, again in condition I am writing another query. See this one. Yeah, I am writing another query. That means again select statement, that is select the first name from student details. That means by selecting the student details when we don't know the names. This is called query within the query. That means writing the subqueries. Then the output would be Rahul and Stephen, because these two students are having the 100 and 102 as the IDs which are following the given conditions. That means the condition is we want to extract the students of student names and ID who are studying the science group. Now we are going to study the subquery with insert statement. Insert statement is used only to insert the values to the predefined columns, that means predefined attributes. That means where I am going to insert the values to the new students along with the condition. That means writing the insert statement along with the condition is subquerying the insert statement. Subquery can be used in the insert statement to add the rows of data, that means from one or more tables. See this one, insert into maths group. That means we are inserting the values to the maths group table as ID and name by selecting, that means by selecting the values for those two columns from another table. See, select ID, first name and last name from student details where subject is equal to maths. What we have done here, we are inserting the values to the maths group, that means the ID and name, by extracting them from the student table. That means insert is the query, that is we are writing a query, and the insertion of values is done through another query. This is called the subquery in insert statement. Subquery to the select statement. See this one. A subquery can be used in the select statement as follows. Let us use the product and other item tables to be defined in the select join section. See, select p dot product name, p dot supplier name, select, that means the inner query. Select order ID from order items where product ID is equal to 101 as order ID from the product p dot product is equal to 101. When this condition is satisfied, that means where p dot product ID is 101, these values are returned to this query and those values are returned to this query. This is the querying, that means the nesting of queries through select statement. Next one, correlated subquery. A query is called correlated subquery when both inner query and the outer query are interdependent. That means they both are dependent on each other. This is called correlated subquery. For every row preceded by the inner query, the outer query is processed as well. That means whatever the process is done to the inner query, the same thing is done to the outer query. That means one is dependent on another. See this one, select product name, that means p dot product name from product p. This is the table where p dot product ID is equal to, now we are checking the condition, select o dot product ID from order items where order items ID is equal to product ID. To extract the values, that means to select the product name from the product p table, this condition has to satisfy. That means these two are interrelated to each other. To get the result of first query, the second query has to be satisfied. Then only the result is generated to the first query. Then these two are interrelated. Then these type are called correlated subquery. Then these two types are called correlated subquery. Next one, nested subquery. You can nest many queries you want, but it is not recommended to nest more than 16 subqueries in general in Oracle as per that. Non-correlated subqueries. If a subquery is not dependent on outer query, it is called non-correlated subquery. As we discussed, correlated means interrelated to each other. Non-correlated means they are not interrelated to each other. What are the errors that we can find in the subqueries? We cannot minimize the errors. That means subqueries might give some errors, those cannot be minimized. That is, use drag and drop, copy paste to avoid the running subqueries with spelling and database types. Watch your multiple field select. That means we cannot use, that means usage of commas and some other incorrect syntaxes may occur while writing the subqueries that should not follow the syntax type. Then we will overcome, that means we cannot overcome the errors of system syntax. What are the SQL subquery comments? That means in other languages, here also we can write the comments like this. That means slash star your command and followed by the star slash. That means how we can give the reference to the subquery. SQL subquery optimization is good, have it more. SQL query is fine. Tuning the SQL query optimization. This is the SQL subquery, how we can make the comments and references and errors. Here, once again, look into this, the subqueries. A subquery can be defined as the query within the query itself, where on these only we can implement the subqueries in different types. So, thank you so much. So, this is the explanation to the subqueries in the third unit of DBMS. Thank you so much.